There are two important things that we need to keep in mind while using in spite of and despite. We use preposition after to show the contrast. We can use unlike when something is not typical or characteristic of someone or something. Despite is never followed by a preposition of. Whatever we perceive or see around us, there is always another side to it. For example, if there's day, there's night too. If there's good, there's bad as well. In life, we expect certain things to happen, but sometimes they turn out otherwise, leaving us shocked and surprised. And prepositions of contrast too have the capacity to surprise and shock us. In this lesson, we will study prepositions of contrast for, after, with, and unlike, and prepositional expressions in spite of and despite. Friends, my name is Hemant Singh Rana and you're watching in Live in English, making the language entertaining, lively, and functional. So let's get started. The word contrast means something strikingly different from another, as good and bad, black and white, day and night, so on and so forth. Preposition of contrast for introduces an element in a sentence which is completely different from the element already mentioned or going to be mentioned. Let's see some sentences to understand this better. For all her young age, Martha is quite mature. For one post, there are 100 candidates. For all his expertise, Mark is not up to the mark. For limited work, we have an unlimited number of people. In all the sentences, preposition for is used before one fact that makes another fact surprising. It is usually used with word all to mean despite, or in other words, to bring out the contrast in relation to another fact in the sentence. Similarly, we use preposition after to show the contrast and after all to show that someone did something or some action or event happened despite hurdles and problems. Here are some examples. We have got the approval, so the concert will happen after all. After putting in all efforts, Mark failed. It was a nerve-wracking match. They won the game after all. After days of rain, the sun finally peeked out. Preposition with, when used with word all, brings out the contrasting element in a sentence. It is used before one fact when the other one is surprising. For example, with all his eccentricities, Mark is liked by all. With all his hard work, Steve couldn't meet the deadline. With all strong measures, the economy is witnessing a slump. Preposition unlike also helps us bring the contrast. We can use unlike when something is not typical or characteristic of someone or something. With unlike, we can contrast two people, things, or situations and show how they are different. Let's see some sentences. Steve spoke quite clearly, unlike Martha and Mark. This year, unlike the previous one, the fair is drawing large crowds. I'm quite shy, unlike my brother who's an extrovert. Unlike the last monsoon, the city has received good rains this time. The two important prepositional expressions that we need to remember are in spite of and despite. Both are used before one fact that makes the other fact in a sentence surprising. or we use it to show an idea different than suggested by the main part. Both mean the same and are quite frequently used in our daily communication. Let's see some sentences. In spite of a strong opposition, our team won quite comfortably. Steve is playing extremely well despite the injury. We love each other a lot in spite of our differences. Despite leaving well on time, we reached home late. There are two important things that we need to keep in mind while using in spite of and despite. First, in spite of are three words and despite is never followed by a preposition of. Second, we never use a that clause after in spite of and despite. Instead, we say in spite of the fact that and then the clause, or despite the fact that plus clause. Let's see some examples to understand this. Mark couldn't meet the deadline despite the fact that he worked overtime. Mark couldn't meet the deadline in spite of the fact that he worked overtime. They all work as a team despite the fact that they have serious differences. They all work as a team in spite of the fact that they have serious differences. So friends, that's it in this lesson. I hope now you will be confident in using prepositions of contrast for, with, after and unlike, and prepositional expressions in spite of and despite. If you still have any doubts, any questions, please do get in touch with me and I'll be more than happy to help you out and make you more confident in using the prepositions of contrast. In the next lesson, we will be studying about prepositions of possession and material. I'll be back with you soon. Till then, keep learning and keep improving. Goodbye.